Hello my fellow book addicts, Megan here, and it's time for another book review. Today, I'm going to be talking about Unhinged by A.G. Howard, and this is book 2 in the Splintered series. So, obviously there's not going to be too much I can say without giving spoilers, other than, I did enjoy this. This was a good follow-up. It kept my attention from the get-go, much like the first one. We got quite a few little tidbits of information that add to the story quite a bit. And I will say that's just based on how this ended. The last book, I believe it's the last book, is going to be very intense. So yeah, I feel if you like the first book, you are definitely going to like this one. So yeah, I'm going to go into a bit more of a spoilery bit now. So if you have not read Unhinged yet, I suggest you click away now and come back after you catch up. So, most of this takes place in our world, the human world, which, I was surprised at, but I found that I really enjoyed that. Alyssa's not instantly going back into Wonderland. I guess instantly is a bit of an exaggeration because we're in the new school year. In the last book, Splintered, they were at the end of one school year, and now, they're starting up the next school year. Alyssa has stopped making those really creepy bug mosaics she made before. She feels kind of bad doing it. She is more embraced her Netherling side. Though not completely, she wants to live a normal life in our world. She doesn't want to be queen. She doesn't want to be in Wonderland. She just wants a life with her family and Jeb in the human world. And speaking of Jeb, he's doing pretty good for himself. He's starting to build a somewhat more of a name with those awesome gothic fairies that he's been painting. And he's hoping that with his artwork he can get enough money put aside for him and Alyssa to go to England. Because Alyssa, I believe, still wants to go to college in England. But, unfortunately, what happens in Wonderland isn't gonna stay in Wonderland. While Alyssa isn't making the mosaics she's made before, she's making new ones out of these little gemstones, and then using her blood to color them. Not that her art teacher knows. The art teacher just thinks she's making these really awesome mosaics with red stones. Not clear stones, dyed red with her blood. And once she, adds that drop of her blood, a weird scene appears, and she has no idea what to make of it. She figures it has something to do with her time in Wonderland, which, is not too far off. It has something to do with her being, queen now, and just, it's basically her Netherling powers trying to tell her what is to come. And Morpheus decides to pay a visit to our world. But there are rules. Netherlings can't do that without trading places with a human. So, he manages to get a human into Wonderland and basically takes on his form, his identity, and goes to find Alyssa to try and nudge her in the direction he wants to go. Which is, her coming to Wonderland, embracing her better half, as he seems to think, and for her to be queen. Which is pretty much the opposite of what Alyssa wants. And poor Jeb is just clueless throughout most of this. Because of how Alyssa used her wish in the last book, he has no memory of what happened in Wonderland. He might as well not have been there. And before I get too far, Alyssa's mother, Allison, and Alyssa are butting heads a bit more. Her mother isn't liking the way she dresses or her style. She's just getting a little protective, which, to be fair, is understandable. Oh, and let's not forget that the Red Queen is still on the loose. She's gonna want revenge, and she wants her crown back, and there's gonna be an epic showdown. There was a nice little showdown at the end of this book, which I was creeped out about. Frankly, anything with children's toys can be really creepy, to me at least, in the right setting, and boy was this the right setting. And throughout the book, Alyssa's relationship with her father grows more and more strained as well. And we also learn a bit more about her father's past, her mother's past. Apparently, her mother wasn't as ignorant of their Netherland heritage as we thought. Apparently she knew full well she was actually going about the tasks to become the queen herself, with Morpheus's help. And she was almost there too. She was getting close. But then she met Alyssa's father. Apparently, remember those really creepy spider-like sisters, Sister 1 and Sister 2 from the first book? I believe it was Sister 2, the one who watches over the darker side of their little cemetery afterlife place, requires a human every, lifetime or so, human lifetime, and, uses their dreams to calm the spirits in her area. And, apparently, Alyssa's father was that human. When Allison was going through the tasks, about to go get Cheshire Cat's smile, and she stumbles across Thomas. And she doesn't think it's right, she wants to help him. So once he reaches a certain point, or, the end of his days, whichever that sister wants, he will be killed. And that's not cool, so she manages to arrange to get him out of there with the help of Morpheus and Ivory. So with some help, she manages to get him out of there, and Sister 2 isn't too happy. And someone informed Sister 2 of what Allison did, so now she's on a mission. So as well as Red and all the other stuff going along, they have to deal with Sister 2 as well. And Sister 2 decides to go after Jeb, because Jeb has a creative enough mind for what she wants. But going back to Thomas, they managed to figure out, when he was a child, he stumbled across this in-between place, which is not a place you want to go. It's typically where beings from Netherland are banished, and it's not a pretty place. And somehow Thomas managed to stumble into that place as a child, and for years he was there until Sister 2 found him in Wonderland, I believe, and then decided to use him as her little dream maker. So they decide, it's probably best if we erase all of his memories from his younger years. So the first thing Thomas remembers is waking up in the human world as a teenager, young adult person. And Allison manages to convince him, yeah, you were in a bad car accident and memory loss. And because of Thomas, Allison basically turns her back on Wonderland. She fell really fast for this guy, and she wants to help him, to live with him, and I think we can gather what happened from there. Love happened, marriage, and then Alyssa came along. So Allison basically said screw that to Morpheus' plan to make her queen, and he wasn't too happy about that. He was betrayed because she agreed to go along with it. He was very upfront with her with the plan, unlike Alyssa. He told Allison the plan, detail to detail, what was going to happen, and she agreed to go along with it. And then she betrayed him, more or less. At least, in his eyes, it looks like complete and utter betrayal. And with that information, I do understand a bit more why he was so closed-mouthed with Alyssa, how he lied to her and kind of strung her along, because he was afraid that if he was upfront with her, like he was with her mother, she might betray and back out too. So while it does not excuse all the lying he did in the last book, and even the lies he did in this book, I do understand a bit more. I can sympathize a bit more. But it still doesn't excuse it, in my opinion. Especially how he's trying to get between her and Jeb. Just no Morpheus. Bad. Bad, bad Morpheus. And that nice little tidbit that Ivory gave us. Apparently she got a quick little glimpse of the future of what may be. She saw a future of Alyssa being queen and Morpheus being her king, and them having a child, which is like unheard of in Wonderland. Children are just not a thing for one reason or another. I'm still kind of fuzzy on the details on that, but, you know, I'm just rolling with it. And Ivory's just like, you know, why don't you just have a life with Jeb, do that, you clearly love him, he clearly loves you, but when that human life starts to end, come back to Wonderland, be queen, you'll go back to being young again, and then you can have a new life with Morpheus. You know, you can have the best of both worlds here. Which frankly, you know, seems kinda logical. I mean, it's not ideal, but not the worst of plans. And also, Morpheus knows of this future, and he wants it to come to pass, because apparently he really, really does care about Alyssa. He just always doesn't go about the best way of showing it. So, the Red Queen. Apparently she's planning on crashing Homecoming, and there's gonna be an epic showdown between her, Alyssa, and with the help of Allison. And Jeb gets his memories back. I figured that happened. I highly doubted we'd go the last 2 or so books without him getting his memories back. It'd be too weird. And just poor Jeb. Poor Jeb. The crap that he has to go through. And on top of this, dealing with Morpheus trying to get between him and Alyssa. Just poor Jeb. Just the poor human guy being dragged into this craziness. And the ending. Oh my god, the ending. For a good while, I was just kind of staring at the last page when we got to the ending. Because just based on how it all ended, the next book is going to be so intense. So much is going to happen, and I'm going to look so forward to it. There was an epic showdown, like I was saying before, with creepy, abandoned children's toys, and the Red Queen, and Sister 2. And at the end of this craziness, the Red Queen drags Morpheus and Jeb into, like, the between. And Sister 2 drags Alice's mother, I want to say, to Wonderland, leaving Alyssa alone in this, like, trashed place. Blood is everywhere, and no one can really explain what happened. So, when Alyssa is found by the police, she is basically declared insane, and she's put in the asylum her mother was put in for most of her life. Which was, like, Alyssa's biggest fear in the last book. She did not want to end up in that place like her mother. And here she is. But thankfully, she can use her Netherlang abilities to get a little bit of freedom here and there, so she's not a prisoner. Or at least completely a prisoner. And she's faking being insane, or at least I hope it's faking being insane. Just like her mother did. And her father is just a mess. Jeb and her mother are missing, and they basically think that she might have had something to do with possibly their murder and disappearance. Poor Alyssa and poor Thomas. He had to deal with locking up the love of his life, getting her back, only to lose her, and then having to lock up his daughter. Just poor guy. And based on how we end things, it seems like Alyssa is going to give him back those horrible memories of the between so that they can try and save everybody again. So her poor father is going to have quite an interesting time, I think. I really hope he's as strong as Alyssa thinks, because if he isn't, he's probably going to go insane. So yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this book, and I have a feeling that I am really going to enjoy book 3. So that's really it. So that's it for this book review, and I hope to see you guys next time. Keep on reading, my fellow book addicts. Keep on reading.